Well, now I'd like to invite Serena Josell, Assistant Area Director of Public Affairs and Brand Communications for Kaiser Permanente here in the South Bay, to the stage to introduce today's first speaker.
Good morning, everyone. It's my honor to introduce Senator Stephen Bradford, representing the 35th District, which includes the communities of Carson, Compton, Gardena, Harbor Gateway, Hawthorne, Inglewood, Lawndale, Linwood, North Long Beach, Rancho Dominguez, Rancho Palos Verdes, San Pedro, South LA, Torrance, Watts Willowbrook, and Wilmington. And that's it. Elected to the state Senate in November 2016, Senator Bradford is a proud, lifelong public servant and citizen activist, previously serving as a member of the Gardena City Council and a member of the State Assembly. Bradford has spent his career being singularly focused on one objective: to represent his constituents to the best of his ability and to work tirelessly to get things done for families and local neighborhoods. Senator Bradford grew up in Gardena, where his mother, a nurse, instilled in him strong values of caring for others and giving back to the community. His father, who owned his own small business, taught him the importance of speaking up against injustice. In the Assembly, Bradford served as chair of the Select Committee on the Status of Boys and Men of Color. While there, he worked hard to correct the many institutional injustices that plague young Black, Latino, and API men in California. Senator Bradford earned a bachelor's in political science at Cal State Dominguez Hills and San Diego State University. In his free time, he enjoys golf and coaches both baseball and football at Rowley Park in Gardena. He is the proud founder of the Gardena Jazz Festival, one of the most popular events in the South Bay. We are fortunate to have him with us this morning. Please join me in welcoming Senator Bradford to the podium.
Thank you for that. Thank you. Good morning. And thank you for the opportunity to address the Torrance Chamber of Commerce. I look around the room and I see many people that I know for my years of living in South Bay, but not only living in the South Bay, working in the South Bay. Prior to being elected to the legislature, I worked for Southern California and Edison as a region public affairs rep, so I had opportunity to represent many of the South Bay cities, working with Scott Goebel, who once represented this fine area now. My good friend Connie Turner, who is doing a yeoman's job and never ages. So, working with various chambers throughout the South Bay, so it's probably someone at each table, from Councilman Warnick to Jan Vogel to that troublemaker over there, Andrew DeBlock, who used to work for Speaker John Perez, who now represents Al Muratsuchi. So thank you for this opportunity to be here and briefly talk about the state of the district and the things that we're working on, along with my fine colleague, Ben Allen, Senator Ben Allen. We have the great fortune of sharing Torrance. I have everything east of Hawthorne Boulevard, and he has everything west of it. So we fight over who does a better job in representing Torrance. So, but I want to thank all of you for being here this morning and what you do on a daily basis to spur and grow business, not only in Torrance, but throughout the region. And one of the issues that I'm vitally concerned with is growth of small businesses. As you all know, last night we passed a gas tax on everybody in California. A $5 billion a year regressive tax into perpetuity. And one of my greatest concerns on voting for that bill was to make sure and get assurances that I did get from the governor that small businesses, women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, disabled-owned businesses will have a seat at the table for contracting and procurement opportunities on those projects. That deserves a round of applause. And we've also assured that the labor force that works out there is just as diverse as California, because many times when you drive by many of those projects, you don't see the folks who represent those communities working on any of those. So that was one of the assurances that I got, and the governor looked me dead in the eye and shook my hand before we took the vote last night that he will be coming to the 35th Senate District to meet with small businesses like each and every one of you here and talk about how you can be a part of this ongoing opportunity to work and improve our roads, not only our highways, our streets, and our municipalities throughout the state of California. And I think it's a great opportunity because many times we pass taxes and the first thing they say, well, I didn't see any benefit from it. I didn't see any jobs that came to my community, or I don't know anyone who got a contract. Well, that's what I'm going to make sure happens. And I've done that. As stated in the Assembly, I also chaired Utilities and Commerce for 6 years. And one of my biggest focuses while chairing Utilities and Commerce was, again, the expansion of women-owned, minority-owned, and disabled veteran businesses to do business with utilities. When I became chair, the spend with those type of businesses with utilities throughout the state of California was a little less than $4 billion a year. This year, we're going to exceed, or utilities are going to exceed, $9 billion spend with minority-owned, women-owned, disabled-owned veteran businesses here in the state of California. So I often say, if there's a will, there's a way. And that's what I will always lend my voice to, fighting for those small businesses. Again, many of whom I've known throughout my career and throughout my life. Like I say, grew up in Gardena and known people throughout the South Bay. And I just want to make sure that the opportunities that this Golden State provides touches everybody. One of the issues that are near and dear to me also is this issue of homelessness. And I know Supervisor Mark Ridley-Thomas just did a yeoman's job in getting Measure H passed, but we need more than Measure H. We drive by every day and ignore a growing problem of homeless people on this street. And when I was running for Senate, one of the questions that was often asked me was, what was the number one environmental issue impacting California? And I never said air, I never said water. I said homelessness. Because if we don't think they're a part of the environment, then we're lying to ourselves and we're lying to each other. They are a major impact to our environment. And if we don't care about people, why should we care about a tree? Why should we care about a bird if we don't first care about people? And I've often said, I don't know a single business individual who wants dirty air, who wants dirty water. And we always come with the narrative that if we don't do that as the number one priority, well, we're all going somewhere bad. No one wants dirty air. And one of the challenges that I hear from businesses is the over-regulation of government on businesses. We have Tesla right in my backyard. Well, SpaceX and R&D facility for Tesla right in my backyard, walking distance from my house. But we could have had opportunity to build those batteries that run those cars. But it would have taken 3 to 5 years to get a plant permitted in California. They got it permitted in a matter of months in Nevada. I'll share one thing for you, with you. Many of us are all urban people, but we probably like the outdoors and nature, and we want to protect our forests. But there are people in the state who make a living on the lumber industry. We have lumber yards in the city of Gardena. I think it's a few in Torrance. And in order to cut down one tree in California, commercial logging, we're not talking about just clear cutting, but commercial logging, we have to file what is called a timber harvesting plan. Do you know anyone have any idea how long it takes to get a timber harvesting plan approved in California? Want to take a guess? 10 years. Not that bad. We're not that bad. We bad, but we're not that bad. It takes 3 to 5 years. 3 to 5 years. But we have a timber tour coming up in June, and I'll probably be on it. But I took this timber tour 5 years ago, and I sat in a small, intimate room like this with some of the largest landowners in California, the Emersons, the Fords, the Ford family, the Hearst, the Fishers who own Gap. And many of these folks own hundreds of thousands of acres of commercial timberland. And when you sit at a table and you hear these folks say, if I could pick up my land today and move it across the border to Oregon, I would. If that's not telling as a legislature, then we're not listening to people. Because in Oregon, you can get a timber harvesting plan processed in 45 to 60 days. And what's different in California than it is in Oregon? They care about their environment too, but we put tremendous restrictions and burdens on businesses. And all businesses don't, like I say, want to be environmentally sensitive, want to be energy efficient, all those things. I've never seen bad operators. We've improved the way we do business, not only in California, but throughout this country over the last 20, 30, 40 years. We don't even make cars the same way we made them 20 years ago. They're far cleaner, far more efficient, but we continue to put more and more burdens and regulations on how we operate and how we do business. So that's one of the things I want to do. I want to try to be the adult in the room and have adult conversations and find those common areas of agreement, because whether you're Democrat or Republican, we all want the same thing. Whether you're progressive, liberal, moderate, it's at the end of the day, we're trying to say, how do we make California better? How do we grow businesses in California? How do we keep businesses in California? Because the biggest challenge I hear is the uncertainty. And because we continually change move the market and change the rules of the game, and we have to stop doing that. And one of the most contentious issues that was debated last night in this fuel tax was the truckers' exemption, the carve out that we gave to truckers. And we had every environmental group in the state screaming, oh no, that's bad, that's bad. But what many fail to understand is part of the false narrative that sometimes gets out there because of our passion on certain issues, that the trucking carve out simply stated, if you buy a new truck today and you're operating your truck, and we change the standard sometime during the period of the next few years, you don't have to comply with those standards because you've already bought a fuel efficient, energy efficient vehicle. So why again do you have to go and retrofit that vehicle? And we said you should be able to keep that vehicle throughout its life expectancy, because a 2017 truck is far cleaner than a 1975 truck. So that person's already made that investment. So if we change the standards 5 years down the road, that person shouldn't have to invest in retrofitting that vehicle. And I thought that was a simple carve out. It wasn't my request, but it was a request of one of our Republican colleagues, the only Republican in the Senate to vote for that bill. And it was common sense. It was common sense. And a lot of folks say, oh no, it was bad. No, it's common sense. Because I grew up next to a trucker. Some might have known, Spates Trucking was in the South Bay in Gardena for 40 years. It's no longer in existence because of those regulatory changes, and he just couldn't keep up with buying and retrofitting new trucks. And now he trucks for the U.S. Postal Service. Left his family business because he could no longer maintain it, and now drives for the U.S. Postal Service. Good benefits, but not the same as owning your own business. So those are some of the things we're going to work on. And again, I thank you for this opportunity to be here and talk about how we move California forward, how we move the South Bay forward. And I touched upon homelessness, and I do have a bill that's trying to address that. I have an inclusionary housing bill, SB 277, and it's a common sense bill, I think. It simply states if you build new rental units in the state of California, that developer voluntarily commits to setting aside a certain percentage as below market rate. We're not talking about low income housing. We're just seeing if I build 100 units, that developer volunteers, it's not mandatory. He says, okay, I'll make 5 of those below market rate. Because we have this false narrative again about affordable housing or low income housing. I couldn't afford the house that I live in today if I had to buy it today. And I make a good salary, but I couldn't afford the house. It's working families who can't afford to own in California. And it's something wrong with that. And that's part of the problem that we see when we talk about homelessness. Because people can't, everybody wants to say, well, they're out there because they want to be there, they're crazy, they're on drugs. That is not the case. We have more, 25% of the homeless people out there are women, and over 50% of them have children with them. Over 50% have children with them. And when you talk to them, they say, we can't afford any place to live, living in their cars. You can drive down, I'm trying to think, one street, and you're gonna see a row of campers parked out on those streets. People are living there. You might not consider that homelessness, but those folks are homeless. They are homeless. So my bill simply states if a developer wants to come to your city and he wants to build rental units, not for sale units, but rental units, and he agrees upon, yes, I want, the city might increase that density, so instead of building 25, you might let them do 24. And those 4 that additional units could be below market rate for a working family can afford to live there. I consider myself homeless in Sacramento because, really, I had an apartment when I was in the assembly. I had an apartment when I got there in 2009. That apartment cost me $875 a month. When I left in 2014, it cost me $1,200 a month. That same apartment that I came back to this year costs now $1,500 a month. I can't really afford that. Yeah, we get a per diem, but you know, it's costly when you have to maintain 2 homes, and a lot of people don't consider that. They think, oh, you got a great life. Yeah, but it's a lot of my colleagues. They have roommates. You know, you got senators with roommates, you got assembly people. And I didn't have a roommate in college. I surely don't want to have a roommate now as an adult. But those are, you know, because the housing market is so expensive. And I like being downtown. I like to be in walking distance of the Capitol. And what have we done in Sacramento? We built a new arena. There's a brand new arena, and property value is going up, and the same thing is happening in another end of my district in Inglewood. I'm excited about the Rams and the Chargers and the new stadium, and that impact of that project will help businesses here in Torrance. It's already helped Carson because the Chargers will play at StubHub for the next 2 years. But it's also driving up rental properties in Inglewood, and I've already heard from seniors who've lived in the same apartment for 20-something years saying, I'm fearful that I will be evicted out of my apartment because they're looking at redeveloping that property or, you know, raising the rents because everybody now wants to move to Inglewood. And I will close on one of the other problems that's causing this homelessness is the fact that we did away with redevelopment 6 years ago. And one of the hardest votes I took as a legislature, and I don't have many regrets, but I've told the governor this, and I told the day I on the floor when I took that vote that we're going to rue the day that we got rid of redevelopment. The promise of $7 billion a year to the state of California never happened. We never saw it. And that has exacerbated our homeless problem because now developers can't come to Inglewood as they did in before and Hawthorne and write down dirt and build a property at a far below market rate, whether it's for rent or for sale. And redevelopment helps spur that growth. They help spur housing. So now we're in negotiations of how do we probably our word was amend, not end redevelopment, and we wind up ending redevelopment. Now we're looking at trying to recreate some form of redevelopment where we only deal with affordable housing for people. So we need to change our narrative and thinking when we talk about affordable housing. We're not talking about, you know, some shanty towns and squalor. We're talking about, again, working families who can't afford to pay $2,500 a month, can't afford a mortgage, but do deserve a home that's insulated, that's free from mold and mildew, and nice and warm in the winter and cool in the summer. And that's what we're going to have to work on, and that's one of the commitments I am. So I look forward to working with the chamber, and if my office can be of any assistance, I don't know if you know the history of the 35th Senate District. Our office has been on the 6th floor of Inglewood City Hall for almost 40 years. It was moved 2 years ago. We're moving back. We've moved back to Inglewood, so we're back on the 6th floor with Assemblywoman Autumn Burke, where my assembly office was as well. Those offices have been there for 40 years, so we moved it back. So please feel free to visit. You have issues and questions. We're going to have a grand reopening at the new office, so we'll make sure that the chamber's invited and we'll have you there. So thank you for this opportunity. Good morning.
Just on behalf of the
not reportable, is it?
I think that's. I think it's below the limit. I think we're safe. Excuse me. Thank you so much, Senator Bradford. It was great to hear from you. I'd now like to invite Mr. Jeff Dill, who is the president of PBF Energy, to the stage, and he'll introduce our second speaker.
Good morning, everyone. Senator Bradford, thank you very much. It is really a privilege for me to introduce one of the people I think is one of the smartest people in Sacramento by far. I didn't say Washington, I said Sacramento. California Senator Ben Allen serves as chair of the Senate Education Committee and the legislature's Joint Committee on the Arts. He's a member of the Senate Committees on Elections and Constitutional Amendments, Natural Resources and Water, and Transportation and Housing. He co-chairs the Environmental Caucus and is vice chair of the Jewish Caucus. Among his many accomplishments, Ben has authored several measures that have become law, including the groundbreaking bill to boost vaccination rates among school children and a landmark river protection bill. He authored laws that protect veterans from pension scams, improve the diagnosis, treatment, and care for persons with Alzheimer's disease, strengthen the regulation of underground gas wells, and enable HIV-positive persons to donate life-saving organs to other HIV-positive persons. While serving as chair of the Senate Elections and Constitutional Amendments Committee in 2015 and 2016, he championed campaign reform and transparency issues. He also authored a new law that will increase voter turnout and civic engagement by transforming how elections are conducted. As chair of the Joint Committee on the Arts, Ben has authored successful legislation that reinstated teaching credentials for theater and dance educators. He is fighting for increased access to the arts in schools, especially in disadvantaged communities, and is working to keep entertainment industry jobs in California. And those are just among his accomplishments. Ben co-authored the Senate's historic climate change legislation, which requires 50% of the state's energy to come from renewable sources and doubles energy efficiency in buildings by 2030. Prior to a law degree, Ben worked for the National Democratic Institute for International Affairs and then as communications director for Congressman Jose Serrano in New York. He is a senior fellow with the International Human Rights Organization Humanity in Action and a member of the Pacific Council on International Policy and a graduate of the Jewish Federation's New Leaders Project. He has a Bachelor of Arts degree from Harvard University, where he graduated cum laude in history, magna cum laude, a Master of Philosophy degree from the University of Cambridge, and a JD degree from UC Berkeley. He is fluent in Spanish. Please welcome Senator Ben Allen.
Well, thank you, everybody. Very good morning to everyone. It is a kind of a weary morning for the legislators in the room. Steve and I were on the flight last night from Sacramento down here. Got in, I think, about 11:30 at night to LAX. And Al, I will say, Al, so the Senate left early. The Senate got done with its business before the Assembly, and then the Assembly, the dramatics started in the Assembly last night. And Al has to be very devoted to have gotten here this morning. Let me just say, because we were getting reports about the vote just as we were landing at LAX late last night, and somehow he's made it to Torrance. So you should give him a round of applause. So it was. I'll talk a little bit about the deal in a second, but certainly do appreciate being here and getting to see everybody and get to talk to folks about everything that's happening in the state. We're of course entering into this new and exciting relationship with the federal government that is just very, very interesting place to be right now. And there's some kind of interesting conflicts over healthcare finance, right? We're super stressed out about what the end of the Affordable Care Act might mean to the California state budget. given how much we doubled down on the Affordable Care Act over the past few years toward putting in place a pretty strong Medicaid expansion, a Medi-Cal expansion. And we now have all this money wrapped up in that. And of course, if that all goes away, what's going to happen to the state budget? I think we're also concerned on the environmental side, what might happen if our ability to go out ahead of the rest of the country on a couple areas of clean air regulation, if that ability is taken away by the new Environmental Protection Agency. I totally share Senator Bradford's concerns about the truckers, and it's one of the reasons why I think ultimately we were able to come together and support this bill. But I will say that a lot of those regulations that were put in place have really helped to clean the air in the Los Angeles area. When I was born, the average Angelino kid had half the lung capacity of kids in other parts of the country. And you all remember what it was like in the 70s in this area, right? The terrible air that existed in our basin. And we have dramatically turned that around. And there's still lots of problems with air pollution and air quality, and we're still one of the most challenging air quality zones in the country. But we're nothing like we used to be, and it's because of the fact that we started to clamp down and put in place stronger regulations. The question now is, how do we make sure we work with our business community? How do we work with our truckers? How do we work with people in transportation and all the stationary sources as well to move forward in a way that's truly sustainable? Sustainable on the environmental side, sustainable on the public health side, and sustainable on the economic side. Now, somehow, we've created something special in California. There's no question that there are challenges here. There are high costs. There are high costs of doing business. There are high costs of living, et cetera. But that's partly reflective of the economic juggernaut that we've been able to create in the state. The fact is that this state alone is now the world's 6th largest economy, all by itself, and it's almost 5th. If the UK continues to drop, given Brexit, we'll be there. We'll be there. So start drinking more tea. So our GDP just for the state of California alone is now up to $2.45 trillion in the year 2015. And there's been some other healthy figures that we're excited about. First of all, 2016 unemployment dropped. Our labor force grew by about 500,000 workers. It was a 3% increase. Personal income of Californians was almost $2.2 trillion. That was a 4.5 increase over last year, easily outpacing a 2.1 rate of inflation. So there's no question there are challenges, but something has happened that's also good here, right? There's an innovation economy here that seems to be surpassing a lot of other states. But we gotta keep working hard, and we gotta keep working hard to make sure that we're doing right by our business and our economic climate. I think Steve and I share a lot of the core concerns. I'm someone who cares a lot about the environment, but I'm also someone who's tries to be really sensitive to the needs and concerns of businesses. I think my first year in the legislature, out of the 26 Democrats, I think I was 4th out of the 26 Democrats in terms of the chamber, the chamber rankings, the chamber scores, and that's even though I'm from the People's Republic of Santa Monica. I got a magna cum laude from the California Small Business Association's honor roll. That was very exciting. My mom was very proud of that. I just signed on to a bill that I want to bring up. I think some folks here might be interested in it. It's AB 442. I'm the second co-author on the bill with Jim Frazier. And I think it's a really, really neat bill. It's going to run into some trouble, but maybe we can all work together to try to get it out. It basically prohibits the California Division of Occupational Safety and Health, OSHA, Cal-OSHA, from punishing a small business or micro business for a non-serious violation of the Occupational Safety and Health Act, unless it first gives the business written notice and provides it with 30 days to correct the violation. This is a right to repair idea that I think makes common sense to a lot of people. You got a lot of people running out there, and I'm a lawyer, and I'm proud of some people in my profession, but you certainly have some folks out there who spend a lot of time just trying to jam up and kind of catch people. And I'm all for making sure that we enforce health and safety laws, and we've got to make sure that we're protecting people. But at the same time, the kind of gotcha litigation that takes place in a lot of communities is just inappropriate and not helpful. It's not actually helping to move the ball on health and safety. All it does is line a couple people's pockets while leaving some businesses ruined, and a lot of other businesses very nervous and having to pay more and more in insurance. So I'm really hoping that we might be able to make some movement on this bill. It's going to be a tough battle with certain entrenched interests, but be on the lookout for it. AB 442. Last year I was here, and I think we were up at the top, and I spoke about a bill that I was working on that sought to promote the aerospace industry and try to increasing more collaboration between the aerospace industry and our state government. And of course, that idea didn't start with me. That was previously proposed by the South Bay's our very own Assemblymember Muratsuchi, and of course he's now back in the legislature, and I'm now proud to have taken a step back as the principal co-author to your bill now, this legislation to create a California Aerospace Commission. We all know what a big deal the aerospace industry is for our region. Unfortunately, it's not what it used to be, but it's still incredibly strong. And statewide, I saw something recently that showed that the aerospace industry has something like higher revenues than the entertainment and agricultural industries combined, just for the state of California alone, which is pretty extraordinary. Really important job creator, job center, and revenue generator. And ultimately, the linchpin here in our area is the LA Air Force Base up here in El Segundo, and that Air Force Base is incredibly important. It creates a lot of follow-on business. There are a lot of, everything from Aerospace Corporation to Boeing and Lockheed, others who work directly with the Air Force Base. But then Northrop Grumman, of course. It's always terrible starting to list off businesses because you always forget somebody. But then there's all these other vendors and others who work very closely with those, and it ends up creating a virtuous cycle of job creation and economic growth. One of the things that we've been able. So I'm now the vice chair of our we have a select committee on defense and aerospace, and I really do intend to use this position to try to make the case that there's no better place in the country to develop, sustain, deploy the military space systems of the United States than at the base's Space and Missile Systems Center here in El Segundo. The South Bay is a brain trust. It has been for years and years and years. We have the world's leading aerospace companies. We have cutting-edge educational institutions in our region, the knowledge, the workforce, the history, the capacity. We got to keep this Air Force Base where it belongs. And I think I'll make a point that I made last year in case some folks might have forgotten it. If the military picks up and leaves those areas where costs are high, which are largely in the cities, and they run off to rural parts of the country where the cost might be a little low, but where, by the way, they don't have the kind of academic institutions, the sorts of infrastructural capacity that we have in a city like Los Angeles, which creates incredible synergies that really help to drive the new technologies that have transformed our economy and the global economy. If they always pick up and they're going off to the cheaper location and moving out of our cities, there's a lot of problems there. I think, first of all, it's going to impact the innovation and the intellectual drive that exists in these bases and at these weapons development centers and these space centers. But in addition, what does that say about the social compact between our military and our people? More and more Americans are living in and around cities. And our country's so damn divided as it is. And if our military is just picking up, a military is one of the few things that really does belong to the people of the United States of America. And if it becomes an increasingly rural phenomenon, what does that say about that social compact? We need our military knowing and loving and engaging with our cities. We need our cities knowing and engaging with our military. And it's one of the many, many reasons why we have to fight hard to keep the Air Force Base here in our area. So let's talk a little bit about this thing, crazy thing we did last night in the legislature. I think part of what just to kind of set the framework here, traffic and transportation challenges have just become they've become an increasingly critical problem that have actually started to threaten a lot of aspects of our economy, our quality of life, and the amount of time that Angelenos spend in traffic, the amount of money that Angelenos spend on car repairs, we're more than double. My constituents pay more than double the average American in car repairs. And that's kind of extra inexcusable if you think about how, California, we got such better weather, right? So on the East Coast, those roads take a pounding every winter, a pounding. But partly as a result, they've been much better about regular maintenance and operations of those roads. So as a result, those roads don't end up deteriorating at the rate that we've allowed our roads to deteriorate. And they've, of course, been able to drive down their costs. This is one of the things that is so amazing about these things. when you wait too long, you could sometimes drive up the costs to such a level that you're having not paid up front actually ends up costing you more. And the interesting thing about this approach that we're going to be taking, it's a fix-it-first approach. We're not actually going to the worst roads. We're going to be fixing those roads that are about to become the worst roads. Because the worst roads are already terrible, and it's too expensive to fix them. It's crazy to say it. They're going to take a total revamp. But there's a whole bunch of roads in our city, in our state, that are about to reach that level, but that we could actually fix at an affordable level right now before they get to that next level of deterioration. And that's the approach that we're taking with this bill. I should also say that there's a good chunk of money that was put in place for transit. Obviously, the people, the state, of the region voted for Measure M. I think about 70% of folks voted for Measure M, and that'll help relieve congestion in a lot of parts of our area. I was joking with Al Muratsuchi that we need to get a green line extension, getting an Al Muratsuchi Memorial train station in Torrance. Hopefully, it won't be Memorial, but because we got to get that green line extended, and it's going to be partly. And by the way, there's so many opportunities here, so many synergies. I've been talking to Laura MD from Redondo Beach. I don't know if she's here. She's on the city council there. For example, we've got a housing crisis at the Air Force Base. So I talked about the Air Force Base a second ago. Senator Bradford talked about the housing crisis. We've got one of the worst housing affordability ratios in the nation in terms of salaries and housing costs. It's true that the housing costs are higher in New York, but the salaries are quite a bit higher for most folks in New York than in the LA area. And of course, this impacts our airmen, the airmen and women who go work at the air base. And it's part of the reason why the quality of life there is regularly deemed very low, even though it's such a great place, right? Here we are in Southern California. And so one of the questions, well, what if we can get use some of the incentives? By the way, because our military, this is so sad to say, are so poorly paid, they oftentimes qualify for affordable housing incentives. So we could build a whole housing complex right over at the South Bay Galleria, for example, which will hopefully pretty soon be the site of a Green Line station. And all those folks can be riding the Metro Green Line directly to the Air Force Base a couple stops up. That's what all the, you ever ride around in the Metro in Washington, it's packed with people in uniform because they're all going to Pentagon to go work at the Pentagon, which is one of the largest job centers in the area. So, folks in the military know how to ride the Metro. And that we could do that here. We could do that here. Keep all those people off the roads, moving in a clean way, living in an affordable way, being able to send our kids to school in El Segundo, close by. We could do that sort of thing. We need to do that sort of thing, and it's part of why we tried to pass that, and I'm hoping that will help us here. It's part of why we passed that measure last night. Let me mention, it's true, we did get Anthony Canella's support. So there was some bipartisan support. The measure was also supported by the California Chamber of Commerce. It was also supported by the Chamber of Commerce here in Torrance. And Donna, made a great comment. She said, Torrance businesses require and deserve an efficient transportation system so that area businesses can continue to excel at providing the goods, people, and the services that our economy requires. And I know we're going to continue to work with our partners in the Chamber to make sure there's accountability, that we're paying very close attention to how the money's being spent, and that this really does end up being a driver for economic growth. It helps to make sure that we are not stymied in our growth here because of infrastructural constraints, that we're going to be able to keep people moving because we've got a decent system in place. Now, one of the ways we're going to do this, efficiently, is trying to create, trying to expedite and save money through smarter ways of building and maintaining infrastructure. And there's some really great examples of efficient cooperation that benefits public and private sector in the building, maintenance, and operation of transportation project. And these are known as P3s, public-private partnerships. And the whole idea of these P3s is they balance the costs and the risks of an agreed-upon project, which the private sector builds, maintains, and then helps to operate for a finite period of time. And in return, the private partner gets a limited opportunity to make a reasonable return justifying its investment. And at the end of the partnership, the project, which is could be a congestion pricing lane, a rail line, a subway, some sort of toll bridge, that can then be transferred back to the public in a state of good repair and stay in the public's control. Now, this is an idea that makes a lot of sense to a lot of people, And it's, I think, one that businesses can appreciate. It's an example of efficient operation and engagement between business and government. But of course, sensibility and government don't always work well together. And that's why I'm authoring Senate Bill 768, which is legislation that allows P3s on transportation projects in California. Now, we had these programs in the past. They're about to sunset. We need to get it reauthorized. It is already generating a lot of consternation from some of our friends in the public sector union world. And I do support unions, but I also support compromise. I think that we need to come together sometimes and really try to increase efficiencies. I think we really owe it to our constituents and to our taxpayers. And of course, a lot of private sector unions really like the P3 model. So there's a bit of a battle within the House of Labor over this. But I do think that we can ultimately find enough shared agreement to push this bill through and accelerate the time frame by which big transformative projects, including those that we plan here in the South Bay, can get built and start making a real difference for people. So that's ultimately, I think, our job. I mean, we've got really tough challenges. We're facing so many changes in the economy, wild things happening in Washington and elsewhere. And ultimately, it's our job to be sensible, to be thoughtful, to be pragmatic, to really listen to people, to be true to our values while also being creative and innovative and trying to come together, trying to bring people together. Like let's try to be unifiers. So I do really share the honor of representing Torrance. I love this community. It's been such a as I say, I'm from Santa Monica, but I just can't help but say how grateful I am to all the wonderful friends I've met and grown with here in Torrance, the extent to which this community has embraced me, and I really do love representing this wonderful, wonderful city, this wonderful area. Let me just point out a couple of my staff members. First of all, Sam Liu, who's our district director, fantastic guy. Sam was my campaign manager. Now he's our deputy chief of staff running our office operations here in Los Angeles. Also a West Torrance grad, West Torrance High grad. And then Lila as well, who's just fantastic. Lila Karloff, we fantastic, but they somehow get together. We got a Berkeley and a Stanford grad here. So if they can get together, all of us can. Please engage with us. We are so interested in working with you, and we help resolve issues and challenges that are faced by our local business community all the time. So please reach out to us. Please get to know us. Please come to see us in Sacramento. I see Mark over here. We just welcomed a wonderful group of folks from Leadership Torrance up in Sacramento and showed them around and gave them an opportunity to get a little window into what it's like in the madness of Sacramento. But I do appreciate you, and I'm going to stick around for a little bit, and we'll all be able to visit. But thank you for your advocacy. Thank you for your engagement, and thanks for being a great community. Thank you.
Good. Well, thank you, Senator Allen. And now I'd like to invite Rob Van Lingen, who's the president of Van Lingen Towing and the chair of the Chamber's Government Affairs and Policy Group, to the stage, and he will introduce today's final speaker, Assemblymember Muratsuchi.
Good morning. It is my honor to introduce Assemblymember Al Muratsuchi this morning. Al Muratsuchi is a prosecutor and Deputy Attorney General with the California Department of Justice and a former Torrance School Board member who represented California's 66th Assembly District from 2012 to 2014. The 66th Assembly District includes the cities of Gardena, Hermosa Beach, Lomita, Harbor City, the Harbor Gateway, Manhattan Beach, Palos Verdes Estates, Rancho Palos Verdes, Redondo Beach, Rolling Hills Estates, Torrance, and the unincorporated communities of El Camino Village and West Carson. With the California Department of Justice, Al prosecutes consumer fraud and holds corporations accountable. He previously served as a criminal prosecutor with the LA County District Attorney's Office, where he cracked down on sexual predators, illegal drugs, and other crimes. Al Muratsuchi's priorities are jobs, education, public safety, the environment, and veterans. He currently chairs the Joint Legislative Audit Committee and the Assembly Select Committee on Aerospace, and is a member of the Appropriations, Natural Resources, Utilities and Energy, and also Veterans Affairs Committees. As chairman of the Assembly Select Committee on Aerospace, Al Muratsuchi authored job creator laws like Assembly Bill 777, which provides tax incentives to attract and retain aerospace jobs in California. He also wrote Assembly Bill 2188, which streamlines bureaucratic regulations to support small businesses and create jobs in the solar industry. For his success with AB 2188, Al received the Legislator of the Year Award from the California Solar Energy Industries Association. Muratsuchi also received the Legislator of the Year Award from the Alliance of Automobile Manufacturers and the Global Automakers for his support of the California's clean vehicle industry. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Assemblymember Al Muratsuchi.
Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Probably not as tired as me. I did have a long night last night, as Senator Bradford and Senator Allen indicated. We took the final vote for the transportation bill about 10:30 last night, and of course there was some activities after that, and so I finally made it back to my hotel about 2 o'clock and caught the 5:30 a.m. flight, and I came straight over here. But yeah, it's always great to be back here in Torrance. You know, I had the honor of serving on the Torrance School Board for 7 years with my colleagues Martha Deutsch and Terry Reagans, and you know, I love this community. It's a great community. It's I know the motto of the city is a balanced community. We have great police and great fire, and of course a strong business community. And it takes all of us working together to keep Torrance a great community. So just a little bit about, I know that as the third speaker, you're probably getting pretty tired of all the talking heads, so I'll keep my remarks short. But in terms of this transportation bill, as Donna Donna came to my office, I think 2 weeks ago, to lobby me on the transportation bill, and no, you know, that's an important part of the chamber's job. And I was very frank with Donna that I was very reluctant in supporting this transportation bill because, of course, it involves the increase in gas taxes. And so, you know, I was telling Donna and Mayor Pat Fury that you know, everyone wants their roads to be fixed unless you ask them to pay for it. And you know, that's the unfortunate reality of public life. But it was really the chamber's support for this bill that really brought me over to ultimately vote for this bill. I mean, not only the Torrance Chamber, but the South Bay Associations of Chambers, all the Beach City Chambers of Commerce supported this transportation bill because, you know, as Alan Zarenberg, the president of the California Chamber, said, you know, it's a common sense, responsible investment in infrastructure. And we all need a healthy infrastructure. We all need roads that we can transport goods and drive to and from work and live our daily lives. And so that is why I reluctantly supported this tax increase in order to invest in infrastructure that will benefit all of us. I know. There's probably mixed opinions out there, and you know, I'm sure I've already started hearing about it. But let me move on. You know, Senator Allen talked about one of the most important industries in the South Bay being the aerospace industry, and I have the honor of not only representing the South Bay from Manhattan Beach down through Palos Verdes, and of course centered in Torrance, but you know, the honor of representing one of the the districts that was really built on the aerospace industry. I think, whenever I go to community events in the South Bay, go knocking on doors, talking to neighbors, it's like inevitably I run into so many current or former aerospace employees. I mean, of course, I see Joe on with Northrop sitting at a Kaiser Permanente table, but Northrop is a perfect example. 3 years ago, I co-authored a bill that provided tax incentives that allowed Northrop to land probably the biggest aerospace contract in several decades, the contract to bring manufacturing to California to build the next generation bomber, the B-21 Raider. And Joe was Joe was in my office maybe about a month or two ago, and they were really excited, and I was really excited to hear that Northrop is going to be adding thousands of manufacturing jobs right here in the state of California. I was very proud to be able to support Northrop's efforts to bring those jobs to California. But that just reminded me of, I know that there's a lot of concern in the business community about the cost of doing business in California, and how everything is more expensive, and with all the environmental regulations, and just the lawsuits and on and on. But I had the privilege of visiting the Aerospace Corporation a couple weeks ago, and spoke with the president and CEO of the Aerospace Corporation. And he was previously the president and CEO of Virgin Galactic's space division, where they are, one of the a part of the growing, exciting space exploration industry, private space exploration industry. Whereas before it used to be the exclusive domain of NASA, that they were the ones that were building the rocket ships. Now we have private companies like Virgin Galactic and like SpaceX that are building the rocket ships. And so, he was talking about how they were building the rocket ships right here in California, along with, I know that SpaceX has been building rocket ships and creating a tremendous amount of jobs here in the state of California. Over 4,000 manufacturing jobs right here in our backyard, right in the city of Hawthorne, since 2006. And so I asked him, why is it that you chose to build rocket ships in California despite, the higher cost of doing business in the state? And, his answer was very simple but direct. He said it's because of the workforce. California has been for decades building, planes and satellites and all the parts that go into aerospace components. I mean, the aerospace industry, again, was the industry that built the South Bay. And a lot of those people, you can't just pick up and go to Texas or anywhere else and expect to have that same quality, that same caliber of the workforce. And so, that to me is, I know a lot of people, especially in chamber circles, they talk about, they like to focus on the negatives of doing business in California. And of course, I think it's important for us elected officials to hear from you on all those challenges. But I think it's also important to really focus and emphasize and be proud of all the great things we have in the state of California. There's a reason why California is the 6th largest economy in the world. There's a reason why California is the number one destination of venture capital, where all the smart money is investing in California. It's because we lead the nation and the world in innovation. And we're leading in innovation because we have the workforce, the smartest, most innovative people right here in California, innovating, developing new products, whether it's in aerospace, whether it's in biotech. I went to LA Biomed just last week, and hearing all the exciting stuff going on over there. And of course, we have Silicon Valley. There's a reason why we are home to all of these nationally and globally leading industries right here in the state of California, and that is because of our workforce. And to me, that goes back to my original passion, my ongoing passion, education. You know, in order to make sure that California continues to lead the nation and the world in innovation, we need to continue to invest in education. We need to, you know, So of course, you know, we're all proud about our great public schools in the South Bay, in Torrance, in Beach Cities, Palos Verdes, I mean, throughout the South Bay. You know, we're also proud of the great program that I'm fighting to save, the Southern California Regional Occupational Center. You know, we're also proud, I mean, whenever I talk to folks coming from other states, you know, a lot of times we forget that we have the best public education system in the whole country. The University of California system, the Cal State University system, our community colleges, we have the best public higher education system. You know, a lot of other people, they say, you know, well, you know, yeah, maybe they have 1 or 2 state schools. You know, we have how many UC campuses? 10? Yeah. Yeah. And of course, the Cal State system, our community colleges, El Community College, the best community college in the entire state of California. So that's why, you know, I just want to close on this note. It is so important that we continue to invest in education, continue to support our schools, so that we can continue to have a strong, innovative business community and innovative economy. Thank you very much. If I can just add, our district office is right here in Torrance, right down on Hawthorne and Lomita Boulevard. Our district director is Melissa Ramoso. And our field representative is Andrew DeBlock. So if we can ever be of assistance, please contact me or contact my office. Thank you very much.
And for getting up so early this morning.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you very much. Well, just in closing, I just want to thank again Senator Bradford, Senator Allen, Assemblymember Muratsuchi for being with us this morning, for taking time out of your busy schedules, and also for your staff for joining us. Again, to our corporate sponsors, our distinguished sponsors, thank you so very much, Kaiser Permanente, UCLA Health, for making today's event possible. Also, a special thank you to Linda Amato. Stand and wave for the crowd. And all of your staff here at the Doubletree for taking such great care of us this morning. Thank you to Torrance City Cable for airing. Thank you. And also just briefly, could I have everyone who sits on the board of directors of the Chamber of Commerce stand and be recognized? I want everyone to know who you are. And thank you to all of you for your service to our community. And also, and finally, thank you to Donna, Chamber CEO and President, and to your staff for managing this and juggling so many things. And thank you, everyone, for being with us this morning. A very special event, and great to see everyone here this morning. Thank you so much.